Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday encouragement. This has been one of those weeks that's had a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of new stuff, especially in our children's department, as we're finishing updates to the classes there. There's new carpet, new furnishings, a better, more efficient check-in system for parents to make things quicker and easier on Sunday mornings, and a lot more. So make sure you check that out on Sunday. And make sure you put on your calendar Sunday, September 11th. We're going to have a fellowship lunch after the worship service. The church is going to provide everything. We just want you to come and enjoy a time of fellowship over lunch with your brothers and sisters in Christ on September 11th. Well, every once in a while, we've done videos here where we've interviewed kids and teens. And my all-time favorite answer we have gotten was on a Mother's Day video where a young man from a big family who was asked how his mom reminded him of Jesus. He thought for a second, and then his eyes brightened and he said, "Well, she knows how to take a little and feed a lot." If the camera had not been on a tripod, I would have dropped it. I was laughing so hard. There's one miracle Jesus performed prior to his resurrection that's in all four Gospels. It comes at a time when Jesus was trying to get away from the crowds with his disciples for a little time to recoup and regroup. The disciples had just come back from their ministry tours Jesus had sent them on, and they had also just received news of John the Baptist's execution. And with the ministry Jesus was doing, they needed a little retreat. So they headed to a place called Bethsaida, which Mark's gospel describes as a desolate place. But Jesus' ministry had created such a stir in the area that when Jesus and the disciples got in a boat to head across the lake to Bethsaida, crowds of people followed them all the way around to the other side of the lake, about 9 miles. And a crowd listed as about 5,000 gathered, desperate to see Jesus. And given that the number of 5,000 referred only to the number of men, you can estimate that it was at least 15 to 20,000 people. So a full John Paul Jones arena's worth of people. And after teaching them, they were hungry. And it wasn't like there was a food court with a Chick-fil-A, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell around. The disciples told Jesus they should send everyone home to get something to eat. But Jesus said, "No, you give them something to eat." And the disciples did a little bit of back-of-the-envelope math and realized it was going to take the equivalent of a person's yearly wages to feed a crowd that size. And then Andrew, Peter's brother, brought a young boy to Jesus and said, "This boy has a couple of fish and some rolls, but what good is that with all these people?" Well, Jesus prays, and then they start passing out the food. And the next thing you know, everybody's eaten all they want. And when they gathered up the leftovers, there were 12 baskets full, more than they had started with. I mentioned that this is the only pre-resurrection miracle that all four Gospels mention. And I think the reason for that is because there's a lesson here that we all lose sight of at some point. And that's that Jesus doesn't need what we have to offer, but if we're willing to put what we have in his hands, he'll take it and he'll do more with it than we could ever imagine. Jesus didn't need the fish and the loaves the boy had. He could have just spoken a word and had baskets of food appear next to every group. I saw a picture this week of a fountain at a breakfast buffet flowing with sausage gravy. Jesus could have put that in a pile of biscuits in the middle of every group with just a thought. But he took what the boy offered, which was all the young man had, but inadequate for such a big crowd, and he made sure that it was more than enough. And the truth is that Jesus doesn't need the things we have to offer. He doesn't need our time. He doesn't need our talent. He doesn't need our financial gifts. He could speak into existence anything he needs. But he wants us to make what we have available to him and then watch him do more than we ever expected. Ephesians 3 says that he's able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or even imagine. Which means that if we're willing to put whatever we have in his hands, he'll take it and use it to do more than we ever thought possible. I don't know if you've ever felt like what you had to offer God didn't amount to much, but I think a lot of people have that feeling, from time to time at least. It's easy to feel like we're not talented enough to make a difference or that we don't have enough resources. But the key isn't the amount we have to offer. It's whether or not we're willing to make what we do have available to him and let him work. Because he's the same Jesus who took one little boy's lunch, prayed over it, and fed thousands. If only praying for the food would turn a cheesesteak into cauliflower after it's past the taste buds, that would be amazing. But my prayers apparently aren't that strong.